Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with John Wrestling. Here's 10 WWE main event pushes that failed miserably. No, I'm not referring to WWE main event, that, silly little show that somehow is still going. I'm referring to talents that either got pushed towards a main event and for one reason or another it didn't work out, or talents that achieved becoming champion, world champion, or WWE champion, and it just didn't end up working out. The company either wasn't behind them, or and they ended up playing second or even third string to various other people in the angles they were involved in. So, yeah, this one may get a little ranty, if that's even a word, towards the end. And I may rant about a few things in between. By and large, a lot of these talents I really don't have anything against. But basically, I just wanted to do this because WWE has missed the mark, and I figured I'd talk about some of them. So here we go. Number 10, Wade Barrett. Look, whether you feel Wade Barrett could have been the first ever English-born WWE champion or not is up for debate. I personally think that at a time Wade Barrett had it, and they should have at least given him a chance. I mean, fuck, they were giving the title to people that really shouldn't have had it. I mean, Sheamus, and nothing against Sheamus, and I'll talk about him in a minute. He wasn't ready. I feel that Wade Barrett, they should have gone with the hot hand and at least given Wade Barrett a chance. I mean, have him win it at, I don't know, Survivor Series, or have Miz win it by cashing in on Randy Orton, and then Barrett beats him at some point. I mean, just something. They should have given Barrett a chance, but nope, they had John Cena bury him under a whole bunch of chairs, and then he really wasn't the same after that. He was a multi-time IC champion. He did have injuries, and then they pulled the rug out from under him during the Bad News Barrett thing, which I fucking loved him. Bad News Barrett was amazing in getting over, and how dare he get over as a heel. He should not be trying to get over pal, Vince presumably. But anyway, Wade Barrett, I think, deserved a chance to be the guy, even for the short term. Even if you had Miz cash in like sometime after WrestleMania or something like that, and have like a good moment or whatever. I mean, yeah, it would have kept Miz out of the May 27 main event, but Barrett deserved a chance. Now, by 2011, 2012, there was no way he was going to be a main event guy. It was his one chance in 2010, and he wasn't. They pulled the rug out from under him, and that was basically it. And unfortunately, that pretty much just spelled the end for him. Even though he stuck around for a number of years, he was around till 2016. Damn shame. Whether you like the guy or not, I feel he deserved a chance. And then, number 9, now we're getting into champions, JBL. JBL's WWE title reign, there are too many that say it's the worst, one of the worst WWE title reigns. JBL should have never been WWE champion. He was really only made that because Vince liked him and because he wanted a cocky heel as champion. The problem is people say, oh, he was a lot like modern day Million Dollar Man. Million Dollar Man had great promos and a way to get under people's skin the right way and could also work. JBL was a brawler and did get under people's skin, but for the wrong reasons, especially like doing a goddamn Nazi, the Nazi salute, the goose step in Germany. Good job, Gibbles, you fucking asshole. You fucking idiot. It's a good thing that WWE, that you left WWE, but hopefully WWE actually got rid of you. His title run wasn't the worst. His feud with Eddie was fine. I didn't necessarily like Eddie's mom having a heart attack, but JBL and Eddie were friends. Okay. I'll push that to the side. I'm sure that JBL was friends with Booker T and a couple others that he feuded with, but the problem is none of his matches were particularly good, except for the ones with Eddie. That one steel cage match that they had on July 15th, 2004, I believe, and that's where Kurt Angle revealed himself to be, or was revealed to be, the guy in the mask that screwed over Guerrero, and then they had their rematch at SummerSlam 04. JBL then would feud with The Undertaker for seemingly forever, and then he feuded with Booker T. Actually, only feuded with Undertaker for a couple months. Then he feuded with Booker T. And then he feuded with Big Show and Kurt Angle into Royal Rumble 05, and then against Big Show at No Way Out 05. Terrible cage match. And then he feuded with John Cena and lost to him at WrestleMania 21 and lost to him at Judgment Day 05. And yeah, okay, you could say I don't think it's the worst WWE title reign ever, or even I don't think it's even top 5. That's my personal opinion. I don't really care for JBL. The guy comes across as a snide jackass that, yeah, he may have been in wrestling for a number of years, but take him out of tag teams and what the fuck you have. a guy that really wasn't all that good. I mean, he was fine in the hardcore division, like some of the Raws from 2002 that I watched before they got rid of the hardcore title. He was fine there. But no, he was not a main event level guy. And no matter how much Vince tried to make it happen, how much they tried to make him be, at the time, the longest reigning WWE champion in SmackDown history, it just didn't work. People just weren't buying into it. They did hate him, but it was also, at times, they were also apathetic. Because they were like, okay, whatever, it's going to be the same formulaic thing. And a heel managing to eke out the victories isn't the problem, but you got to have the right heel. And JBL just wasn't up to snuff. His body was breaking down. And also, yeah, he just was not a main eventer. And then you have Chris, and then number 8 is going to be Chris Jericho in his undisputed title run. Because Chris Jericho in his other world title runs that he had, and his other main event runs, was fucking tremendous. And this undisputed title run isn't even his fault. They had him beat Rock and Stone Cold in the same night, which Jericho has mentioned once or twice in his career. I mean, he just once or twice. You have to really pay attention to make sure that you understand, exactly what he's saying. If you understand the words that are coming out of that Canadian's mouth, and nothing against Canadians, that guy actually is a great spokesperson for Canadian wrestling, because he shows how the great lineage of a lot of Canadian wrestlers, much like Edge and Christian and Bret Hart and Owen Hart, and you go back to Stu Hart, Natty, and various others. And my God, there's poor Natty. I feel so bad for her losing her dad so recently. But anyway, back on topic. Chris Jericho, after winning the Undisputed title, they treat him okay. Like he's going to be a champion. He's only going to face somebody when he wants to face him. He's at a pool. He's celebrating as champion. Faces The Rock. And he beats The Rock, but it's with a whole bunch of interference and stuff like that. Which, nothing wrong with a heel, doing that. But just a couple months ago, he had beaten The Rock for the WCW title, I believe at No Mercy 2001. And yeah, that was with other interference and stuff like that, but still, he beat The Rock. The breakdown, by the way, terrible move. It's like when, they had him use a version of the skull crushing finale, and it was terrible. They really should have not given him that move. It never looked good. And it wasn't even Jericho's fault. It wasn't the opponent's fault. It just wasn't good. But anyway, so after the Royal Rumble 2002, he beats Austin after the end of, a whole bunch of interference. Okay. And then he's feuding with Triple H. And he is the third string to the Triple H Stephanie, or his second fiddle, or whatever, the Triple H Stephanie storyline, where it's all about Triple H getting his revenge on Stephanie and stuff like that. And then it didn't help that the match went on after like Rock and Hogan, which you can say what you want about Hogan, and I have, especially in my most recent video, 37 minutes, but go check it out if you want, if you enjoy scathing rants. I forgot to breathe at times during that and got a headache. I actually had to take a break for a bit. But anyway, Jericho then loses to Triple H, and it's an tepid match, and it's not that both didn't work hard, but nobody bought into Jericho. Nobody bought into him. He was champion for like 3 months, maybe 3.5 months, and that was it. I think it was about 3 months, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe 3 months and a week. He wasn't treated that well, and it took a number of years. I think it took till 2008 for him to become champion again, because, after 2005, he left till 2007, which is fine. He needed to leave and that kind of stuff, and he's been pretty much a part-timer since. He has small full-time runs, and that's it. But Jericho's Undisputed title run should have been a whole lot better, and it wasn't, and it's just goddamn sad that they didn't use him better and actually make him seem like any kind of threat. Him being a cowardly heel wasn't the problem, but he's a really, really good wrestler, and they could have exploited that, or at least shown that, and they really didn't. It just was bad. And then number 7, Sheamus. I want to say this much: Sheamus and Cesaro are a great tag team. Sheamus has been good in other instances, but I would say his time teaming with Cesaro has actually been the best run of his career. Because his first run, beating John Cena at TLC 09, or becoming WWE champion then, in a tables match, not all that great. And then, losing at Elimination Chamber 2 months later, regaining the title June. I want to say it was June of 2010. June or July 2010. I think it was June. And then he loses it at like I want to say it was September. It was Night of Champions 2010, which wasn't very good, or maybe it's Hell in a Cell. It was one of the two. The bottom line is Sheamus didn't have the title very long. I think his longest run was actually with the world title. After beating Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 28 in 18 seconds, and that killed Sheamus dead. It just killed him dead. I mean, it killed him as a babyface. If they had gone and just pushed him as a heel, it was fine. But then he was feuding with Alberto Del Rio for like 18 months of the 6-month reign. I don't know how that's possible, but it felt like it went on for fucking ever. It was ridiculous. It was fucking ridiculous. And then he loses at the Big Show, feuds with Big Show more, and then the Big Show unleashes a big old comedy chair. Comedy like, big old chair in a chairs match, TLC. And then they're teaming up in an uneasy alliance against the Shield 3 months later. Or 4 months later. Right now, 4 months later. Good job, creative. And then Sheamus became WWE champion again after cashing in on Roman Reigns. After Seth Rollins got injured, and it was Roman versus Dean at Survivor Series 2015. And Sheamus cashes in, which I pop for, because I pop for all the cash-ins. And then he loses it a month later. Not even a month. I think he lost it like 3 weeks later. Maybe a month later. It was ridiculous. And he hasn't tasted WWE gold since, and he shouldn't. And it's not that Sheamus isn't a hard worker. It's not that he's not a good athlete. It's not that he's not a good wrestler. He's a very good brawler. It just, they pushed him too soon as a main eventer. They didn't use him right once they got him as a main eventer. None of his title reigns ever worked. His world title reign, the most glaring of all, that lasted as long as or basically almost as long as his 3 combined WWE title runs. Or his 3 WWE title runs combined. It's sad because Sheamus is a really good athlete, but it just didn't end up working. He's a great tag team wrestler, though. Him and Cesaro, the Bar might be in the conversation for at least top 10, top 15 tag teams of the last 20 years. They are really damn good. So, now we move on to The Miz. Wait, actually, we're going to move on to Ric Flair at number 6. And his first WWE title run. Now, yes, actually his 2 WWE title runs. I know that Ric Flair won it at the 92 Rumble. It's one of my favorite Rumbles of all time. And they built up that whole thing with Randy Savage just fine and everything. And Flair, after winning it at the Royal Rumble, that should have launched him for a number of months. And then he loses it to Randy at the next pay-per-view. Now, they only had 4 pay-per-views at the time, or at least in 92, they only had 4. Thankfully, no Tuesday in Texas 92, which we didn't even need the first Tuesday in Texas. It was rubbish. But, so he's champion for like 2.5 months? 2.5 months. And then he loses it to Randy Savage. Okay, and Flair bleeds, and there's all this interference stuff like that. And Randy Savage wins it, and holds the title for like about 5 months, because he loses it to Flair shortly after SummerSlam 92. Flair then only holds it for a month and a half, and then drops it to Brett at a house show in, I believe, Saskatoon. And Flair had to do with injuries and had to do with stuff or whatever. I think also Flair just wanted to go back to WCW, which I don't blame him. But his 2 WWE title runs, they're often talked about in reverence. One, him and Savage should have main evented WrestleMania 8. There's no reason why they shouldn't have. Except Hogan had to stroke his own ego. Hogan, the fucking ego stroker. Who hates black people. He's only sorry he got caught. And I'm going to stick by that. Because I just don't buy Hogan being apologetic. Because he wasn't apologetic. He was like, well, they need to forgive me. Bullshit. You're the one that did wrong. You fucking racist grandpa. But anyway, back to Ric Flair. His 2 WWE runs, or WWE title runs, were what, a combined 4 months? About, I mean, give or take a few days, it was about 4 months. And from winning at the Rumble, that was the apex. And then him facing Savage was really, really damn good. But then after that, I mean, yes, they didn't have Monday Night Raw at that point. They didn't have Monday Night Raw until the following year. They only had syndicated TV and stuff like that, and European shows and all that. And in fact, there were some good ones on the Randy Savage Blu-ray set that they released, which was really, really good. That documentary, very sad about Randy. Really wish he would have gotten himself checked out. I don't know if he'd still be around, but God, maybe Vince would have fucking woken up and put him in the Hall of Fame. Anyway, sorry, I got a little emotional there. This is not a knock against Ric Flair's talent, but his 2 WWE title runs, I don't want to say were considered flaws, but after his first run, what else did he do? He won it on a house show or on like a Saturday Night's Main Event or something like that and lost it on a house show. He was treated like a star, but it just never felt like he belonged as WWE champion, which is sad. But looking back on it, if you look at it objectively, after winning it at the Rumble and after defending it and losing it at Mania, that was about it. It's just sad. I mean, I look at them kind of as failures, even though Rick himself is anything but a failure. And then we move on to number 5, The Miz, and his only WWE title run. Let me make it clear that I'm actually one of the few people that actually enjoyed Miz's WWE title run. I like that because he was never the greatest worker. He's still not the greatest worker. He's a great mic worker. One of the best that WWE currently has. He might be the best that WWE currently has. Maybe besides Samoa Joe. And there's a few in NXT also. I will say that actually one of the best promos they have may be Adam Cole. And you go ahead and put that in the comments. But The Miz, after he cashed in on Randy Orton, after Randy Orton successfully defended the title on a Raw right after Survivor Series, 2010. Miz cashes in, Miz gets a victory, Miz goes on to have a run that should have been a whole lot better. The feud with Jerry Lawler I didn't really care for, even though Miz and him worked a really safe style and worked a pretty good match. Lawler, the racist, homophobic, sexist piece of shit that he is. Good job, Lawler. The king of Memphis wrestling. And there's a reason why your work wasn't that revered in WWE. Mainly because fans in WWE wanted to just, beat you up. I'm not saying they could have, but he was a good heel. He was a really good mic worker. Average worker at best. And I'll always think that about Jerry Lawler. Nothing against anybody that loves Jerry Lawler. If you love Jerry Lawler, that's absolutely fine. He did draw big houses in Memphis. Anyway, Miz, then after that feud with Jerry Lawler, which actually wasn't that bad. That match with Randy Orton, was it the 2011 Rumble? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the 2011 Rumble. And it wasn't all that good. Because then you had CM Punk begin his feud with Randy, and Miz should have done better than he did. And Miz tried. I'm not saying Miz didn't try. Creative should have tried a whole lot better with him. This is where I'm going to get a little. He really did try. And one, that whole build up to Mania 27, Miz should have been featured better than he was. I mean, yeah, dressing up like The Rock was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. Him in the bald wig. Or the bald cap. But he was third string to Rock and Cena. It's the same thing that they did with Jericho 9 years prior at WrestleMania 18. Now, yes, Miz did win, it did win the main event. He beat John Cena in the main event. That's something. Miz took a massive header, like hitting his head on the concrete. Thank God he was able to be okay after that, even though he had a massive concussion and apparently does not remember the match. Thank God he's okay. And he was okay and was able to perform after that. And, they should have treated him a whole lot better, because he then lost a match or he lost the title in, it was that 3-way cage match. It was him, Cena, and Morrison. And Truth interfered, I believe, costing Morrison the victory. Morrison should have been WWE champion at some point. In fact, I might do a countdown at some point. 10 WWE wrestlers that should have been world champion. Or should have been WWE champion. But anyway, Miz then loses it there and feuds with John Cena for a little bit. I even was at Over the Limit 2011 where they did the I Quit match where Miz and Alex Riley beat him up, beat him up, beat him up, did the whole trick thing with the audio. And then they found that out. And then Cena rose back to life, put Alex Riley through a table, and then submitted Miz on the stage. By the way, the Key Arena seats are absolutely ass, and I hope the renovation actually helps. Make the seats fitting for an actual human being. Miz's WWE title run should have been booked better. Him being a cowardly heel wasn't the problem, but the whole way they built him up, or didn't build him up, and that feud with, focused solely on Cena and The Rock, it killed Miz dead. Even with Miz being, taking that header and winning the match. It's a shame. Hopefully Miz is WWE champion again at some point and they actually book it properly. So, number 4, Jack Swagger. Going to be pretty brief here. He shouldn't have been WWE ECW champion. And his world title run was a flop. His cash-in was great. Him fiddling with the hook to try to get the briefcase unhooked. Thankfully, was sort of added out in WWE Network. To be fair, I can only imagine the amount of nerves he had. Should have been Drew McIntyre winning that, by the way. Thankfully, Drew McIntyre is doing much better now and should be Universal Champion, not Brock Lesnar, as of the recording this video, just in case, for some reason, by the time, I post this, like a week or two later, Drew is suddenly Universal Champion. Anyway, Jack Swagger as World Champion, it didn't work. He tried to be more serious, and then they did the comedy stuff. They did the whole thing with the Swagger soaring eagle, which I believe was Chavo Guerrero under, in the costume. Swagger beat Big Show by DQ. I think he beat Randy Orton on a SmackDown clean, which was pretty cool. After that, I can't name anything of note that he did, and he lost it to Ray. It just didn't work. It just did not work. Maybe he lost in a Fatal 4-Way, actually, and then he tried to beat Ray at Money in the Bank, and that didn't work. And then Kane cashed in on Ray that very night after winning the briefcase. That was cool. But yeah, Swagger... And then his 2013 run, oh fucking Christ, he got busted with having weed in his car or something like it, or he was under the influence of weed or something while driving. Well, his manager was Dutch Mantel, and I believe Dutch Mantel lost his daughter, I think it was his daughter, lost his daughter to a drunk driver. Good job. Good job, Swagger. Nothing is, I feel that's terrible for any parent to have to lose their child. But anyway, Swagger was just not very good. He was a good athlete. He was never going to be a good main eventer. He's actually a very good athlete. He's an exceptional athlete. Just get him a mouthpiece. That's really all they need to do. And then number 3, Kevin Nash in his only WWE title run. He tried beating Bob Backlund in Madison Square Garden. But then they didn't book him all that well. He had a great match with Bret Hart until they did the screwy finish at the Royal Rumble 95. He faced Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 11 in a not very good WrestleMania. It was a good match. It was not a great match, but it was a good match. And then, of course, he's feuding with others. He feuds with Mabel. That wasn't very good. Feuds with others. That match with Davey Boy in your house in October. I don't even remember the name of it. But yeah, it was Nash and Davey Boy not having a very good match, and Nash then loses it to Bret Hart at Survivor Series 95. Yeah, that didn't go so well. Attendance was down. I don't want to necessarily put that all on Nash. I think a lot of it had to do with people just being fed up with the cartoonish bullshit that WWE was doing. I don't think it would have mattered who you put as champion. But yeah, you have to kind of look at Nash's run as WWE champion as a failure. I mean, yes, he was champion for nearly a goddamn year. Besides his matches with Bret and one with Shawn, name one that was memorable for the right reasons. Am I saying that Nash didn't try? No. I don't think Nash was necessarily great as WWE champion. I believe he tried. But yeah, you have to deem it a failure because business dropped a lot. Whether that's on Nash or whether that's just on how Vince was running the company, who knows. 1995 was not a very good year for wrestling, business-wise. WWE was losing money. WWE, of all people, of all companies. WCW, I think, was gaining steam, but was still losing money. ECW might have actually been the only one to turn a profit. I don't know. Yeah, Nash's run as Diesel. Oh, he was over. That title run. Number 2, The Ultimate Warrior. I ranted about The Ultimate Warrior plenty in my previous countdown. So I'm going to focus solely on his title run. He beat Hulk Hogan at Mania 6. It was lightning in a bottle. It was these two monster baby faces. The Skydome was on fire. Probably should have put it out because I was endangering a whole lot of people. Kidding. That just means the crowd was on fire. And my God, it was just done so well. It was great. Warrior won, and then had a series of matches. Like he would have matches against I think he would have matches against DiBiase, and I think he'd even face Savage on some of the house shows. He faced Rick Rude at SummerSlam 90, and that was Rude's last WWE pay-per-view match. I think one of his last matches, he would end up jumping to WCW soon after, which, yeah, that was something else. Rude, by the way, an absolutely tremendous worker that deserved to be WWE champion. A lot of it was timing, but really, he deserved to be that. Should have been WCW champion, not just WCW International champion. Cheap plug for which was worse episode I did. It was episode 7. But anyway, Ultimate Warrior, they tried their best with him. And he was actually, I think, supposed to hold the title until WrestleMania 7, drop it back to Hogan or something like that. And that ended up getting, shot down, and he dropped it to Slaughter at the Royal Rumble. Now, they only had a few pay-per-views a year, so he won it at Mania, defended it at SummerSlam, was part of Survivor Series but didn't defend the title, and lost it at the Rumble. And then never tasted the gold again. He got one other chance at the gold, and that was SummerSlam 92. Ultimate Warrior, though, has to be looked at as a flop because people may have been on fire for him, but I think that, well, I think the business was good. Business wasn't going to be that great because they saw him as a less charismatic Hogan. I mean, I give Hogan a ton of shit, but Hogan has a ton of charisma. And, yeah, Ultimate Warrior ended up ultimately being a flop. So now, number 1, Lex Luger. Putting aside the fact that he's a fucking murderer and that he should go to hell for, and that hopefully he'll go to hell for what he did to Miss Elizabeth. And he should. Let's look at his WWE main event push. Vince McMahon hires him under a WBF contract, World Bodybuilding Federation contract, because Luger was a body guy. That was it. That's all he was. He sold every move like he got shot. Every time he got hit with a chop, like, dude, are you having a stroke? Are you all right? Like, what the, it's like, I mean, I remember even watching as a kid, like, why, like, I would watch with some of my friends, and we would all say, why the fuck is he yelling every time he gets hit? Why is he yelling every time he hits a clothesline? I mean, yeah, some wrestlers have weird little quirks or whatever, but Luger almost always did it. But anyway, after the WBF basically folds and it's shit, Lex Luger's brought in as a narcissist. And Bobby Heenan's putting him over. It's a guy in love with himself. Luger, not Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan could have had an ego about himself, and he had every right to, but Bobby didn't seem like a selfish guy. But anyway, Luger's a guy that's in love with himself with a whole bunch of mirrors around him. Must have been so hard for him to play that. So hard. Because all he was a physique. But anyway, they go with the narcissist thing for a while. I believe he beat Mr. Perfect at Mania 9. I suffered major trauma from watching Mania 9. I don't even know why I reviewed it and did a rant on it. But I did. But anyway, now we get to Luger getting the main event push. And after Hogan leaves, after losing to Yokozuna at King of the Ring 93, they suddenly turn Lex Luger babyface, like within a few weeks. That was June 13th, 1993, I believe, or thereabouts. On July 4th, July 5th, they're having footage of the Intrepid, where they're doing the body slam challenge for Yokozuna, and everybody's trying. A few people almost get him off his feet, like Scott Steiner, and a couple others. And then suddenly this helicopter lands, and Luger comes out in jeans and an American flag t-shirt, and he comes out and he gets in Yoko's face, and I'm wondering what the hell's happening. I'm folding my arms because I don't buy this shit at all. And then Yoko Yoko goes for him, hits the turnbuckle. Luger body slams him. Legit power. I will give him that much credit. Celebrates like crazy. And then they do the whole X Express thing, and no one fucking cared about any of this bullshit because it was Vince trying to create another Hogan. It was just Vince trying to create another goddamn Hogan. And it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is because Lex was not a natural babyface. The grassroots babyface they tried with him later in WCW in like '97, where he beat Hogan for like and held the title for all of 5 days. That sort of worked because the crowd was on fire. The crowds were on fire for Luger, but then came SummerSlam '93 where he didn't win the title. The only way that this could have worked was to just give Luger the title for a little bit. And excuse me, my voice is fading, so I'll finish this up quick. Luger, I actually fantasy booked something. I was challenged by my friend Chris, aka the Durbinator, to fantasy book Luger winning the title. Fantasy booked the title picture in '93 and '94, and I said, okay, I can do this. And I actually gave Luger a bit of a title run. And I thought I booked it pretty well. And even though I hate Luger, I was like, I can do this. But anyway. Go back to SummerSlam '93. And Luger should have won. He should have won straight up. Rumors are that half the locker room threatened to walk out. They wanted Brett to be champion and not Luger. And Vince had Luger win by countout, and then balloons are dropping. He's holding the flag. Everybody's celebrating like he's suddenly president of the goddamn world. But he didn't win the goddamn title. You can't win the title by countout unless they suddenly do a rule change. And they didn't. And then Luger, after that, it pretty much let the air out of the balloon. And then you went to I believe Survivor Series '93. You had him on one side with a team, Undertaker with an American flag under his jacket, precursor to the American Badass, and then against Yokozuna and a team, and then you had Luger and Brett be the co-winners of the '94 Rumble, and by that point, the crowd had soured on Lex. They popped way more for Brett. Luger still got his title opportunity another title opportunity against Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10. And after that, he was pushed down the card. All that money, all that time spent, all those vignettes, all those promos, all that work, and for nothing. And that's because Luger was a better heel than he was a babyface. But also, why would Vince want to push another guy that was just like goddamn Hogan? I mean, I'm just saying. He had a ready-made guy in Brett. Hell, he could have hot-shotted Shawn up there. Tatanka. I mean, I'm not saying Tatanka was better than Shawn or Brett, but shit, put somebody, hot up there, like against Yoko or something like that. Give Scott Steiner a title run. I'm just saying, they could have gone with almost any other route. It just didn't work ultimately, so, yeah. Lex Luger is the most failed WWE main event push that the company's ever had, at least in my personal opinion, at least high-profile one. But that's what I gotta say. What do you guys gotta say? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. This has been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.